What is going on, South by East fam? Welcome to the South by East podcast where we talk about the culture, the scriptures, and everything in between. And we're here with another glowing traffic report. John, what we got today?
Man, we are here discussing this dynamic that I think too many people discuss and struggle with. And that is not having enough time.
Ooh,
You know what? Here's the deal. We all have the same amount of time, bro.
that's crazy. That's
Do
crazy.
you realize that?
I think you're wrong.
We all have the same amount of time. And often I get asked, John, how do you get everything done that you get done?
Mhm.
And because there's a difference between doing stuff and getting stuff done. There's a difference between having a packed schedule and scheduling your priorities, right? You hear us talk about that's one of the things I talk about with the team all the time. Are you prioritizing your schedule or are you scheduling your priorities? And how does that look? And so we came across this LinkedIn article, man, that I shot over to you that had 10 things. It says, hey, success isn't measured in hustle hours anymore, right? What are you measuring, man? And it said the top 1% master these habits instead. You've mastered the grind, but sustainable excellence, question mark. So I just think this is so good, and it's so good to start off the year with something like this. And so, bro, do you wanna walk us through some of this?
Yeah. So let's look at this playbook here. There are 10 underrated habits that will put you in the top 1%. The first is balanced confidence. Step back before big decisions, and knowing when to pause outperforms false certainty.
Yeah.
100%.
100%. Just knowing, hey, I need to think about this a little bit more, right? And saying I like to pull the. I need to talk to my wife about this, or I need to talk to my team about this.
That's the good
Yeah, right. That's the go-to move.
Yeah.
I need to talk to the team about this.
My
right?
wife is also my admin. It's like, oh, you can shoot that over to my admin, and that's why I do that.
But knowing when to pause and saying, hey, I don't need to make this decision right now. Especially when I was trying to get my finances together, really, one of the things I used to do is I used to have a 30-day rule. So I would put it on a 30-day list and say, if I still wanted it at the end of 30 days and I had the money to buy it in cash, then I'll go do it.
That's a good strategy.
And it made me pause before making decisions. And anytime I went somewhere where they tried to pressure me to make a financial decision right then, I always just walk away and don't do it. I know that's not the place for me to go. And I tell them, I say, would you make this size financial decision instantaneously if it was your finances? No. So that's one of the deals. So
Yep. And it keeps you from having to remake the same decisions when you haven't actually thought about what you're doing. 2, thoughtful silence. Practice strategic silence in meetings. One powerful insight beats endless input.
It is better to be thoughtful than to open your mouth
and remove all doubt. Man, this was something when I used to practice for when I got famous and I was getting interviewed and what I would do. And what I don't remember who it was I watched, but I would see people and I would be like, oh, I like how they do that. I see tall people and how they walk when they were going through puberty. They had that lanky walk. I was like, yeah, that makes them look powerful. I'm gonna walk like that. And I saw somebody in an interview, and they every time somebody said something, they just sat there. You know? And then they would speak, and everything they said was so calculated, and they controlled the flow of the conversation because they were just silent. They were like, you're asking me the questions. I'm silent. I'm going to speak when I'm ready to speak. And I was like, that is so powerful. And it makes them look like a powerful person in the conversation, but I could also tell, man, they're being able to actually truly speak their heart.
But here's the other deal. I think sometimes people feel the need for needless input because they don't feel like their presence is enough. And so I think when we have to be better at valuing the presence of those around us, and they wouldn't feel the need. Like, so for instance, if my kids feel like I'm distracted, they make more noise. And when they know that they got my full attention, they don't feel like they have to talk as much or make as much noise. And so it's knowing that your presence is enough and being strategic in that. And when you want to speak, I get requests for interviews and different things all the time. Here recently, somebody, a newspaper or a news station called me or reached out on email and wanted me to give an interview on a certain thing, and I wasn't really well versed in it. And I was like, I'm gonna pass on that because I don't know enough to speak on this.
Right. And that's good. And then smart energy use. Track your energy, not your hours. Oh, this is so good. Manage your peak performance windows ruthlessly. Who I've been seeing really work on this hard is my sister Jill. And so even on her calendar, if you go to schedule something on her calendar, you have access to it. It tells you what her peak hours are. And she's like, here's when I'm going to do my best work. And so if you try to schedule something, she's like, hey, that's not actually a priority for me that day. I could put it down here when I'm tired, but this is when I need to get these things done, and it helps her schedule her priorities. Yep. I love that.
Yep.
Number 4, value-based decisions. Run each opportunity through your values filter. Rare alignment beats common success. I feel like you have some good filters around this to share some of those.
Yeah, I mean, just one looking, man, does it fit within your skill set? Does it fit your mission and vision and values? Is it in your sandbox? Have you determined what your sandbox? So when I get asked to be a part of a new opportunity, I always ask them how is me being a part of that thing going to impact Southeast Topeka? If they can't tell me that, then it's automatic no. Like my life, I feel like I have been sent to this neighborhood, to Southeast Topeka. And so everything I do, I try to focus around it. I do a lot of things within this neighborhood, but it has to be focused around that. But then I have to know, like, certain things are not my skill set. So even within this neighborhood, there's certain things I don't do, but I'll raise resources so that I can bring in somebody else who does that because my neighborhood needs it.
Yeah.
And so it's really that value-based thing. And then knowing, like you said, those team principles and stuff like that, those core values that you live by, and saying, I'm not willing to transgress those to accomplish this other deal because this is more important.
You remember I dropped an EP in 2021 called Everybody Eats. Remember how many tracks I had on it?
I'm trying to remember. It was a
5.
5. Yeah,
yeah. I actually recorded 6. I had a small group of people that I ran all my music by at that time. They would speak into it and give me input. And they were different. They were diverse in different spaces. And there was one song on that project that no one ever talked about. Whenever they gave me feedback, no one ever said anything about it. I had to ask them about it. And I said, this song is not up to par for this project because it doesn't stick out to this group. That group of people was my filter. And you've got to have a group of people who can help you rule out some things when you're not making your best decisions. All right, number 5, steady drive. Break your biggest goal into 90-day sprints. Sustainable pace beats burnout brilliance. Man, as a dude with just uncontrollable ADHD, I tell you, this helps me so much. Like we do an annual strategic planning here at the church, and we set out our annual goals, and that is fire. But through 365 days, I'm gonna lose the plot. And so having 90-day, we have 90-day goals.
Next
90s. So those give us our goals over the next 90 days. That helps me go, okay, these are the big things that I'm doing to affect those yearly things. And then we do weekly priorities. And then then I do daily priorities, and then on a bi-weekly schedule, I update Johnathan on how I'm doing on all of my next 90 and my weekly priorities. That helps me stay on track. You got to break your large goals into manageable chunks.
And it's just getting up every day, working toward it. We were able to sign a deal to build some more net zero houses and to do a deal, our first multi-house build deal, also our first deal with garages. But bro, I worked on that design and deal for 2 years, right? It was a 2-year commitment to get to that piece. So
Yep. People awareness, number 6. Read the unsaid in every room. Understanding subtle shifts creates major advantages. Boy, everybody in your corner is not in your camp.
Woo!
And you have to be able to recognize that. And you know what? I'm all right with that.
Yeah.
Everybody, when I was a kid, I thought everybody should be my friend. And then I realized everybody didn't want to be my friend. And then as I got a little more mature, I realized I don't want everybody to be my friend.
So
if you,
there was this popular TV show that came on a cable network called The Chappelle Show.
Chappelle.
And man, one of the funniest. I'm not recommending you go watch this. But it was funny. Was that Ashley Larry? But he walked. They offered him $100 million, and he walked away from it. And when they asked him why he walked away from it, he said, because one day I noticed a shift that they wasn't laughing with me, but they were laughing at me. Mm-hmm. And it made him walk away from $100 million potential contract. Man, you have to read the room in some deals and know when it's time to go.
Yep, know when it's time to go. And number 7, kind boundaries. Protect your energy while strengthening connections. Not now beats an exhausted yes. And I think this really aligns with that one about goals. When you or value-based decisions, when you know what your values are and you know what your yes is, it makes your no a whole lot easier. I used to struggle with telling people no until I realized if I say yes to that, I can't do this.
But that's one of our mantras, though, bro. That's how we built. We've tried to build everything be backpack size and to pivot real quick. But one of the deals is we know when someone's in our yes, and we know when someone's in our no. So people coming to us with stuff all the time, we immediately be like, nah, that's not gonna happen, right? But then we come up with something that is in our sweet spot, and we can quickly say yes and capitalize on it, where it may take some people longer to make a decision, and they may miss the opportunity. And it's because we've really honed in on what we do and what we're about and what our gifting is.
Yep. And I see a lot of people that struggle to jump from job to job, from opportunity to opportunity, from scheme to scheme, because they don't actually know what they're trying to do. Man. And it's like when you don't know what you're trying to do, you will be ripped and whipped and turned by every single passing wind that comes.
That goes into the next deal.
Yeah, which is number 8, clear priorities. Say no to good to make space for great. Ruthless focus beats scattered excellence.
You got to work at something. Man, I knew when I came up on my interview trip that I wanted to get a hold of the land on Fremont and develop it. And it's just steady going at it. I have documents I've rewritten I don't know how many times, man, how many presentations I've done on that. And so it's just saying I'm not giving up. I'm going to find a way. I'm going to find a way, right?
Right.
And that's the deal is, do you love something enough to keep at it when you get a million no's?
Number 9, smart recovery. Schedule rest before you need it. Strategic recovery prepares for what is next.
So one of the things I try to get all of my staff to do is to schedule all their vacations for the whole year before the year begins. That includes taking their vacation time, putting it into the tool, and then to look at, part of that is looking at your high energy output times of the year and planning time away before and after those times so that you recover. And so it's something I've learned. It's something that I plan out my year. And it's something that I highly recommend. And even throughout the week, I know my recovery times. And even throughout my day, I know my recovery times. And I really go into and keep those processes.
Yep. And use that time. When you're being smart about it, it doesn't just fall upon you. You're ready to actually use that time to rest.
Yeah.
And then number 10, the last one, full attention. Master being fully present. 1 focused hour beats 3 fragmented ones. Man, this is one of the first things when I got we do traction plans here as a part of our growth. And when I got my first traction plan, one of the things I was supposed to be working on was time management. And when I looked at time management, there's a few things I learned that have always stuck with me. For one, when someone is able to do something 60% as well as you should hand it off. And then for 2, it was learning to actually focus on one thing at a time while I'm doing it and knock it out, complete something while you're doing that. And it's taken me a lot of time to figure that out. But whenever I do, I'm like, wow, this hour was so effective.
But you know what I feel like fragments a lot of people's time? Is that they'll have something really hard, and instead of attacking that first, they'll delay it. And so that thing steady grows on their mind the whole time, and it keeps them from focusing on what they're working on. Where if they would have just said, as soon as I get in, I'm gonna work on this hard deal so that it doesn't just weigh my emotions down and take up all my mental capacity the whole day. And I'm gonna work on it till I knock it out. And then once I knock it out, right, I'm done with it, and then I can go to this other stuff, and I won't be nearly as distracted. But until you have that hard conversation, make that hard phone call, send that hard email, or work on that hard task, you're gonna find yourself steadily distracted because your heart is gonna be overwhelmed. I feel like, here it says that the 99 chase outdated metrics, but the 1% master strategic habits. I feel like your habits cannot outpace your heart. And one of the things that I've continually seen is unhealthy mental and emotional people find it really hard to really perform at a high rate. And it's because those things continually impact the way they interact with others and with their work.
I would actually challenge that a little. I think there are plenty of high performers that are mentally and emotionally unhealthy, but I think that everything they build also crashes.
Yeah, so that's the stuff that high impact. Build, I would say high impact.
High impact. Yes. High impact. The stuff that they can perform high, but when it comes to building something that lasts, goes beyond them, often it crashes out, or the people around them burn out. And so what you'll find is they may be a high performer, but the rate, the turnover rate around them
they're using people like toilet paper.
Yeah, and they're just cycling through. Yeah. And so as soon as they run out of that pool, as soon as they run out of fuel of people to sacrifice to their grind, everything falls apart. And so building legacy, having impact, man, that's something that you can really only do when you're healthy. But what do y'all think? We want to continue to broaden our perspective. Jump into the comments. Tell us which one of these are you already doing and which one is your wife saying you should jump into right now. Man, comment, like, subscribe, wherever you're at. Let us know, and we'll see you next week
in the intersection.